Hi guys, in this video I'd like to show you how to delete and highlight duplicates in a selected range. Before we do that, go to excelvbasequel.com. You could watch a lot of hours of video. There's about 14 hours right now on how to become a VBA programmer. Put in your email here and I'll send you an email so you could watch the free videos when they go up, and contact me here and some of your questions and I'll try to answer them. Okay, so in this video what we're going to do is allow a user to just select a range like this. So you see I selected a range, and then with a shortcut key like Control Q I deleted that 17 there and highlighted that yellow. So let me do that again. If I have 20 and 20, and I also have the word book and book, and I highlight this whole range. It doesn't have to be that range. I mean, it could be a bigger range. I just press Control Q. It highlighted the places where there were duplicates. So let's look at the code for this and walk through it, and that'll be it. So initially what I did is I went to Developer, went into Visual Basic, and here's my code. It's called delete duplicates in range. And notice that what I did is trigger it with the shortcut key. So to do that, I went into macros, and after I named it, I wrote the name of it. I went to options and I just did Control Q right there, as you can see. Okay, so now we know how to trigger it. Notice that when I do Control Q, if I highlight this again and do Control Q, it takes away the colors, and that's what this line of code does here. But before we work with the colors, we need to set what range are we working with. So I declared a range variable here, RNG as range, and I set it equal to the selection. So when you do this, whatever I select, if I do Control Q, this is the range. This is the RNG variable. If I do this, then this is the RNG variable. Okay. Initially, the first thing I do is clear all colors. That's what this code does. It clears all the colors. It says with that selection, look at the interior, dot interior, and with the pattern do XL none and pattern color index and tint and shade. So this just gets rid of the colors right here. Okay, so now we get into the real heart of the program, which is going to be we want to loop through every cell in the range. So this is a loop. We're using a for each loop, and it's saying for each R cell in range. And what it's saying is loop through each cell in the range. Okay, and if I go down and see the end of that for loop, it's right here, next R cell. I'll just put end of for loop. So now we have a for loop that will loop through every cell in this range. And this R cell, if you're curious as to what that is a range object. I just gave it the name R cell. You have to put a name in here, and basically what you're doing is with the for each statement, you're looping over a collection of objects. And in our case, our collection of objects is a collection of range objects that I named R cell. So it'll loop through the first R cell, which will be this cell. Then it'll go to the next one, which will be this cell. So we could do something like this. If I highlight this whole range and do Control Q, it highlighted every dog in that range, and that'll be useful. Well, I guess I'll get into that in a second. So this loop loops through every cell in the range. Remember, our range, let's just say that our range is this. This is our range. This is our range here, okay? It's going to loop through every cell. So it'll start here in the upper left, and then it'll move to the, and then it'll move over to the right, and then it goes down to the next row, and then it goes here. So with this range, it goes from A1 to B1 to A2 to B2. That's what the loop does. Okay. Now we know what the loop does. Now what we want to do is we want to also put the address of this R cell into a variable. So that's what I did here. I did R cell dot address is set that equal, or make that the value of start address. So let's loop through, and let me press Control Q here. So if I press Control Q here, start address in memory is going to be equal to A1. If I press play again, start address is equal to B1. So you can see what it's doing. Notice though that it already fixed our problem here. So let me put that back in there. Because when I press play, something happened, right? So let's go a little further. Next thing I do is I say, okay, I have the address in memory. Next thing I do is say, if the rcell.value does not equal blank, because I don't care about blank. So I'm just gonna, this if statement goes all the way down to here, which it ends over here. So end if cell is blank. Okay, so now the next thing I do is, as I step through, notice that it's not blank, so it steps through. I'm in a do loop. So this is a do loop. This is a do. It's a loop. It says do, and then down here it says loop until. It's a do loop that says keep looping until the start address is equal to the address of search result, or has asterisk is equal to 1. Now let's talk about this has asterisk thing. So here's something interesting, not interesting, but it's just a fact that if you go to an Excel worksheet and you do Control F and you search for dog, it'll find dog, right? That's what it's supposed to do. But if you put an asterisk in here, it'll also find everything. It just goes through everything. So an asterisk is a dangerous character in this program, because our program is going to rely on this find function, and we need to make sure that our cell does not contain an asterisk. So there's one exception to this program, that the value of the cell can't contain an asterisk. If it does, I'm just going to skip it. So we have to deal with that, because notice again that when we use a find function, if we use asterisk, it gives us misleading results. It's giving us cat, but I'm not searching for cat. So that could be a problem. So what we want to do is we want to know if there's an asterisk in the cell. So what I do is I create a variable called has asterisk. I assign it the value 0. And notice I'm in a loop here, right? So I'm in this cell. I'm in cell A1. And now I'm going to perform a do loop in that cell. And I'm going to loop until something happens. But I create a variable called has asterisk equal to 0. And this has asterisk, I'm going to assign it a value of 1 or 0. And I'm going to assign it 1 if it does contain asterisk, and 0 if it doesn't. So how do I do that? Well, I just do another for loop in here, and this for loop it checks for an asterisk. I think that's how you spell it, but I'm not sure. it's going to check for an asterisk by doing what? Well, it's going to use this mid function that will look at characters. So if you pass in a string, you can say start at character number 5 or 6 and go one ahead and return one length. This is going to be the how many characters you want to return. So this is the string that you pass in. This is the the character number, meaning where do I start in that string. So if I passed in 2, I would start at the second character. And this is how many characters are returned. So what I'm using this for is to loop over every character in this cell, and if the character has an is an asterisk, then I set has asterisk equal to 1, so that I know that this cell has an asterisk. And how do I know when to stop looping? Well, I stop looping when I get to the size of the word, or the length of the word, by using this length function. I do length rcell.value. So now I know if there's an asterisk. So now I can do more stuff. I can say if has asterisk equals to 0, then I want to do stuff. So this is the end if has asterisk is equal to 0. Notice that I don't do any of this stuff in here if has asterisk is equal to 1. So this is my way of preventing a problem happening. And you'll see, it basically, what happens is if you create a loop and you do this, basically this is what we're doing, and it has an asterisk in it, well, it's just going to keep doing this the entire worksheet. It'll just keep doing this the whole time. So it'll be an indefinite. It'll be a loop that never ends, and that's a problem. So we had to write all that logic to deal with that. Okay, so what do we do if there is no asterisk in this cell dog? Well, I want to search for dog in the rest of this range. So remember, our range is this. Now I'm in the cell A1, and I want to search for the value dog in these other cells, in every other cell. And that's what we're doing here in this bit of code. We're saying in this range, RNG, which is A1 to B2, find what? I want to find dog. So that's what our cell is. And if I put a watch on dog, and I go down into here and I run this, you'll see our cell is equal to dog. So I want to find dog starting after the current range that I'm in. And I want to look in the values. I want to look at the whole part of the equation, or the cell. I want to search order by rows and search direction XL next and match case equal to false. But then I want to, onto that find function, I put a dot address. So notice, this is a RNG, which is our range, which we declared up, which we passed in because our range is right here. This is whatever the user selected, the selection. We apply the find function to that, so it'll search within that selection, and then it has all those parameters. I'm not going to go into detail in the parameters. It's not very important. If you want to learn more about the parameters of this find function, you could Google that. Okay, so now I'm going to search, and again, this returns an address because I did dot address of that find function. So it'll return an address of the next dog instance. So if I look at this in memory, I go here, address of search result is B1 because I searched for dog. I was in A1, I searched for dog. Well, it found it in B1. And now I can do stuff. I can do the highlighting, I could remove it. So I do this if statement. I say if the address of the search result, in our case, is B1, doesn't equal our cell.address, and our cell, let's see if we could find, trying to find well, address is in here somewhere in this tree. I can't find it, but our cell, remember, is our start address, which is A1. So I say if the address of the search result, which is B1, doesn't equal the place where we started from, which is A1. So this evaluates to true in our case, because A1 doesn't equal B1, and the range of the address of where we search to, if that value isn't blank. Notice how I pull the value out of this address. So address of search result is just it's an address. I need to pull the value out of it. So you need to wrap the range function around it to get the value. So I say if the address of where I started from doesn't equal the address of where I searched to, and the range of that value does not equal blank, then I could step into this and I could clear this dog in B1. So that's what address of search result has B1 in it, as we can see. I'm going to do range B1.clear, or range address of search result clear. If I do this, you'll see this dog disappear. And I step in and dog disappeared. And then I just apply some coloring. I do with range address of search result dot interior, change the pattern equal to solid, and make it color 65535. Notice that it's yellow now. And also notice as I keep going, I can also set the borders of this search result. So there it is. I just set the color and set the interior, and now I just keep looping. So notice though, my loop stops when the start address is equal to address of the search result, or has asterisk is equal to 1. So what's my start address? Well, it's A1. What's my address of the search? Well, it's B1. Has asterisk, let's add a watch, is equal to 0. So this is going to keep looping. And I keep looping, and I check if there's an asterisk, and there's not. And has asterisk is equal to 0, because I'm right now I'm in this cat. And we could see that. Well, actually, no, I'm sorry. I'm not in the cat. I'm still in A1, and I'm searching again for dog. So I search again for dog, and I find it in B2. That's why address of search result now is in B2. Then I look at this if statement again, and I go, is the address of search result B2 not equal to A1? Okay, that's true. And the range, is it not equal to blank? Yes, that's true, because it contains dog. Well, then I can highlight it again. So I'll click through, and there you can see now I highlighted that cell. I removed the value by using this clear, and I highlighted it by using this, a with statement. And now I keep looping. And now, still, my address of search result B2 doesn't equal A1. So, I'm searching again for dog right now. I'm searching again for dog, and let's see, I find dog again in cell A1. So now I have this statement in here, if address of search result doesn't equal result rcell.address. Well, in this case, it's going to evaluate to false. So I'm going to step over this if, and that's why this dog isn't highlighted, because of this if statement up here that says address of search result not equal to rcell. Because notice, it would have colored it if I didn't have this logic in here. Okay? So I keep looping. Now I go to the next cell. And what's my next cell? Well, our cell is now equal to B1. But I say if our cell.value is blank, then keep moving. So I'm just going to keep going. I go to the next cell. Well, what's that next cell? our cell now is A2. So we're in A2 now. So we went from here, and then we went from here, but this was blank, so I just kept moving, and now I'm in here. And now I look for cat, and cat can only be found in A2. So that's why the address of the search is equal to the address that I started at. So then I don't color it. I get to this line and I go over it, and then I keep looping, and on and on. So I'm just going to press run, and you could see that that works. One thing that I just noticed is that at each time through the loop, I'm checking for an asterisk in this this rcell dot value, but I don't need to do that in the loop. I could do that outside here. So I could do it. I need to check if there's an asterisk, but I could only do it once. I don't need to do it each time through the loop. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to put dog back in, a dog back in, and also click Control Q, and there you go. It also works for numbers. So if you put like 1 1, do Control Q, there it highlighted where that was at. It works for characters, like special characters like that. So if you do things like this, then it will highlight those. So that's what this macro does. And notice if I do it like this, then I get that. It deletes every instance of dog and cat. So I hope you understood what's going on here. Let's just highlight some of the main points of the code. First of all, this asterisk thing is a big deal, because if you don't deal with that, you will run into a loop that never ends, and that will cause problems. So number one, when you're dealing with find function, note that the asterisk can cause problems. Number two, this find function is really the machinery that gets us going. And number three is that the loop, we're going to keep looping until this happens. So start address equal to address of search. That will, when we come back to the original cell, that'll tell us to stop. And then the coloring, the actual what we want done, is done all here. We clear the range here, and we set some colors and some borders here. So that's all for this video. I think it's straightforward, not too difficult, but it's useful if you need to do something like this to allow the user to select a range, click a shortcut key, and then have things happen. What I'm going to do is just save this workbook. I'm going to upload it to excelvbasequel.com, and you could download it. You could also watch about 14 hours of video right now. Enter your email here, and you could receive an email when new videos go up. Contact me here. I'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions. Until next video, I'll talk to you later. Bye.